Welcome to episode 9 of Outlet to Reality. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast, we're on all this stuff now. This is really exciting because now we're not just on the Internet Archive, we're on like everything else.
Right, and YouTube.
Yeah, now we're about to be on YouTube in just a second. Which honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the video podcast format. That's just me though. My opinion is meaningless. But
Oh
we have a
man,
very exciting show today. So it's episode 9. We're just marching along through this like just once a week, and we're next thing you know, we're in July 5th now. Hopefully, you guys had a great 4th of July. Celebrating the foundations of America, built on slavery and thievery and all that stuff, genocide. Very exciting. And we're all gonna blindly fly the flag. Anyways, really ever since when I was a kid, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, people would always say, teachers would always say, you don't have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. But no one would do that. Like everyone would just follow along just because it was like a 10-second thing. And, we needed to stretch up anyway. So, we had to get up and just stretch. But how was that very enforceable for you guys growing up? And we have Mike Abron here as our guest today.
Well, this is Mike. So no, I believe I was actually forced to just stand up and, put your hand across and cite the pledge.
Yeah, something about it is very much like Bellamy Salute, which, by the way, is which I learned like last year, is like 2 years ago, is what all the kids did to the flag until 1942, which is deep into Nazi Germany, which is that's like Nazi Germany and some change, like a couple of years into it. So it's just funny that they kind of overlap.
that's crazy, man. In my school, my elementary school, we had to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we did the German anthem or whatever you call it. I forgot what it's called. Before like sports game. Yeah, the anthem. So we did it in German. So I was like, man, it's pretty cool. I'm learning a new language, but that's the only thing they taught me. and that was
Just
it.
like the 6 words of the anthem.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, man, I thought
I'm
y'all were gonna
not a huge fan at all either of like before sports games. I wonder because Mike here has a lot of experience, I guess, with like martial arts and stuff like that. How would you react if that was a thing where you had to put your national anthem before like an event, any sort of event, even like a fundraiser?
Well, no, that would be kind of weird. I mean, I would feel like
Yeah.
I'm in a country that's overruled by a specific type of power, a governmental power or something.
Yeah, like I always thought that like if someone's gonna go play a round of golf, we're gonna do the national anthem before we start, like like, I'm gonna go shoot some hoops. We got to do the national anthem though. We got to do it before we go to the park. I don't know. I'm going into the subject blindly because yesterday was that holiday, and yesterday was the most like what's the word, like just like I don't care, like the most apathetic I felt about that holiday. Not that I've like felt proud to be like on 4th of July or whatever, just to go out and have some fireworks or hang out with friends or whatever, like we usually do. But that's why I was bringing that up. Anyways, we just wasted 5 minutes just talking about the stupid flag. Anyways, this is episode 9, and so I mentioned that Mike here has done martial arts, and that's very exciting. So first of all, like, what age did you start to realize like I kind of want to do this as like a teaching thing?
Start teaching. Let me see. I think I was just really doing it for fun. The teaching aspect came in. Gotta be like probably my late teens, like 18, 19. I thought, man, I could teach somebody else how to do some stuff. At least I thought I did at that time. So, but I started really teaching, I would say officially, like really getting good in my 20s. In which I'm 43. I'm 43 now. So
Yeah, that's really impressive. So like so when you started like getting better as like when you were the student, Was there some sort of epiphany where you're like, I want to do that. I want to teach other people how to do this, like how, with these moves that I'm starting to learn.
Yeah, I think it kind of just came natural. Like when I learned how to do something, it was fun to kind of show off what I knew, but it was like, people seem like, well, how do you do that? So then that's kind of how it really started. It wasn't an intentional thing. It's just like people just start asking, well, how do you do that? How did you do that cool kick? Or how did you do that move? And that's kind of how the teaching aspect really start picking up. And like, I'm going to really start showing people how to do stuff they don't know. So it's kind of cool to show them.
I want to share something real quick. So for those who don't know, Master Michael right here is my first instructor that I've ever had for martial arts. He knew me since I was in 5th grade, and not only did he taught me martial arts, but he also helped me out in my English class, my poetry. I was struggling in poetry. I was like, man, Mike, I can't think of a word that rhymes with school. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just struggling. So I feel like, and then Mike's like, come on, man, you know this
Come
one.
on, you were full
And
school.
yeah, right. So, but he really, honestly, I gotta give a hands down, like, being not only a teacher, but also like a teacher in life, like being a tutor too, because a lot of times there's different schools. You have an instructor that'll do their job and then they'll go home. But Mike will stay the extra, if he had to, an extra 30 minutes just to help me out. And as a kid, you don't forget the stuff that really impact your life. And I feel like, those little stuff, help me to continue going to school and keep moving forward. And also, I want to share something real quick that I didn't mention. Master Michael, he got his master's in Hapkido. He studied a lot of varieties of martial arts, and he is the founder of Strekydo, my bad, and the creator. You know what I'm saying, which is the same, founder and creator. So this is really cool, Michael. I want you to share a little bit of what does Strekydo mean, and when did you come up with it?
Um, so Strekydo kind of take it from the traditional structure of, like, for example, Hapkido, which the hop means harmony, ki means power, and do means the way. Strekydo, take it from that concept, means the way of street defense. So it's a system that's designed specifically for streets. A lot of things, me training in about 9 different arts over a 28-year period, that I found that besides the fact of a lot of arts having similarities, like a spinning back kick may be a turning side kick in another art, but it's the same technique. But then there's, of course, a lot of cultural differences as well as technical differences. But one of the things that I found the same in traditional arts is that a lot of times the instructors or masters focus more on the arts, the beauty of the art, the authenticity of the art, versus how this actually works in the street and what happens when that doesn't work. And so Strekydo is based off of that concept of what do you do when this doesn't work, and how to be adaptable and flexible to very diverse situations in real life.
I'm sure you're like, you have you definitely have like good students, and I'm sure you're a good guy and everything. But do you ever get like any sort of situation where you just want to beat the shit out of someone and you just kind of use your moves against them?
Well, in training, over the years, I've run across in teaching, I've run across a lot of different people who come from different arts, different disciplines, and they would come in, like, for example, a jujitsu artist, not knowing that Hapkido has an extensive amount of ground fighting, but a lot of instructors, I would say about 99.9% of them, don't teach the ground fighting in Hapkido because it's a lot of work. Maybe, I don't know, but I had a jujitsu guy come in there. He wanted to prove a point, and he started seeing that I was able to adapt to everything he was doing, plus hitting nerves and pressure points at close quarter combat that he didn't even learn in jujitsu. And he's like, how in the world did you learn how to do that? Or the counters, how I was able to counter everything he was doing. And I said, because I've trained in a fuller picture of the arts and I've seen a much broader picture. So yeah, I've had them tapping out and screaming for their mama almost in a lot of cases. But I was disciplined with it. I didn't, try to hurt them. I was just trying to teach. So I had different scenarios with different people of different arts, but I've had a lot of physical, real challenges because they was like, oh, that doesn't work, or that art doesn't work, or that stuff you learn, you know. So yeah, I got it out that way, I guess.
I remember another story you told me back then, and you probably have a better memory with this. You had a friend that did Muay Thai. Muay Thai is mostly knees and elbows. And I
Mhm.
remember he kicked you one time really hard, like really hard, Michael. And you were like, okay, I think I'm gonna have to show this guy. I was just, sparring, but nicely. But he
Mhm.
went, and I remember you told me the story, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to show that,
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that story a little bit.
yeah, yeah. There was a guy, and some of them, like, he was actually one who also trained like this. Some of them are trained kicking trees, trying to kill the nerves in their shin bone, so that it doesn't hurt them, so they could break bats. They build it callus over the area and everything. And so, we were sparring, and this guy had some very hard kicks. So I blocked, the traditional down block or whatever, and that kick was very hard. I mean, it hurt. So I was like, okay, time to be adaptable. So I shifted gears on him. So he started coming in with kicks. I start sidestepping. I start letting him go his own momentum and redirecting him. And this guy got frustrated. Plus, I was able to show him where I would have striked him. Just having fun. I was just having fun. So I didn't hurt him in that instance. Unlike some of the other people who had to be hurt because they was just really trying to seriously hurt me, so they can prove, oh, I can beat a black man, I can beat a master. So, and that's obviously not what martial arts is about. I use the most important aspect of martial arts that I teach, which is discipline, self-control. And if you can control yourself, then you can definitely control that situation that comes to you that's out of control.
And one thing too, I want to add to, like, when you study an art, right? Like Taekwondo, right? That's one of the first arts I studied, and we learn a lot of different combinations. So like it would be like a front kick, snap kick, and a punch. But like if someone comes out of nowhere trying to attack you, and you're like, listen, they're actually choking you. You're not gonna be
Mhm.
like, what was combination number two?
Yeah.
You
No,
know what I'm saying?
no,
Like in
no.
real life, you gotta just go with it. You know what I'm saying?
you, yeah, you're gonna wake up dead. So because people, there's some irresponsible people out there, and they don't even know what they're doing sometimes, and they could be really putting you in a very dangerous or even fatal situation, and they don't know because they just learned something off a video or something their uncle or somebody taught them, and they can seriously hurt you. So yeah, you don't have time to be like, what was technique number? No, you just have to adapt, flow with it, protect the most vulnerable areas. If it's your neck, you gotta, just adjust to the situation. And it helps, of course, with training. But just saying that you don't, in martial arts, you could train, like Hapkido has thousands of techniques, and with the variations now, I mean, it's like, many thousands. But you don't get to train on every single situation when you learn martial arts. So you have to learn how to adapt what you do learn to the situations that you didn't learn how to handle.
So is the first thing you learn, because I do not know anything about martial arts or anything, but the first thing you learn within like jujitsu or something, and then the first thing you learn within Hapkido, is it similar?
Falls, yeah, I would say that's fall. Falls were similar, but a lot of times Hapkido spends a lot more time on the falls, and then they start going into standing techniques, joint locks, pressure points. Where jujitsu, both Brazilian and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is actually more of a self-defense version, focused primarily from that, and that came first. And then the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is more of a sports version, and that deals with, like a person doesn't really punch at you or anything like that, unless you train the self-defense version. But yeah, they kind of change from that aspect. Hapkido goes to standing joint locks. Jiu-jitsu goes to like ground grapple, triangle chokes, guillotines, all kinds of different things from the ground.
How often are you guys like? Because and we'll promote this too. You have I think you say you do classes. David, you mentioned that he does classes, I believe, online on Mondays.
Yeah.
Is it like Monday evening or something like that? And it's just like virtual.
Yeah, so like I've been I mean obviously I've been teaching in schools in a variety of places, but I actually also use a church, which I'm also an ordained minister. So this was making me a hybrid, you know, a poet, a minister, a martial artist, which those two words like how does that all blend together, you know? Plus I did part-time, I used to do part-time police work, I did bodyguard work for celebrities, I worked for the government, federal and DuPage County, which is out here in
Yeah,
DuPage
yeah.
County in Illinois. So, you know, yeah, uh you know, just setting up a picture of like having to use that in a variety of situations. But to answer your question, which yeah, I totally forgot. your
I guess. Oh, I guess my question was. Was it? Well, it wasn't the jujitsu one. I already got to that one.
right.
Um. Geez, I don't even remember. I'm such a
Yeah,
terrible.
I know. I I, I just start
But
going down that
but
rabbit
I was
trail.
gonna go like kind of like bounce off of that. I was gonna say like, how often are you doing stuff like meditation or like yoga or something like that, or
Yeah.
even something like ballet where you're balancing, like you're focused on your balance, or like tai chi.
Yeah, so like and I know what you asked me now it came back. You know, I'm old, but I'm not that old, I guess. Um the the classes we actually do on Monday. So I've been teaching in different places, but I started doing like online since this coronavirus, which is wrecking the whole world, obviously. Um, you know, even though we're starting to meet in person a little bit, I still do classes on Monday nights on Zoom, and they're usually at 6 o'clock. We run from like 6 to 7, and so I teach people like workouts, self-defense scenario trainings. Which is kind of unique doing that from a Zoom perspective, but I still make a way to do that. You know, even if I have to bring somebody in and, you know, have to do it, perform the, demonstrate the technique on them, you know, I still show them. But yeah, we do that on Monday nights.
Very nice.
Cool, Mike.
Any
And
other questions, David?
yeah, I have another question. So, Michael, you know how UFC is one of the biggest sports in the world, pretty much, and it has basically kicking, ground fighting, has a lot of locks. So, with this new sport that has become so mainstream, how do you feel of this sport in the martial arts world? Do you feel like, for you, for instance, like when if you wanted to join right the UFC or something, how do you see it, or like the way it is? I don't know if my question made sense, but you know what I mean. Like,
Mhm.
how do you feel about the UFC?
Um, well, it's exactly what it is. You know, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. It's fighting. It's about defeating someone and making a lot of money in the process. If we go back to the traditional essence of martial arts, it's more about principles, and there's a good side, or should I say, a reality side of UFC that does not come out in the arts. And me from some of the fields backgrounds that I've told you about that I've had to actually use martial arts, it doesn't look as pretty and artistic as it does in the classroom. And the scenarios are very real. There's no mats, there's concrete, there's glass windows which you can go through, there's car doors, there's knives, there's guns, there's all kinds of things, there's multiple opponents. And guess what? There's no instructor out there or a referee or anything else to break it up, to stop the fight. So if you're cornered and you're in the alley and you got people attacking, you don't know how far this is going to go. So it just all really comes down to survival at that point. But the UFC brings out that reality of real combat fighting. It's what martial arts would really look like in a real fight scenario. But the aspect of its use is not really from the traditional origin of martial arts about principles, respect, discipline, integrity, you know, loyalty. These things are kind of thrown out in promoting the fights because you see them disrespecting each other, they call each other's names, you know. You know, if they was from the hood, they'll be saying your mama jokes, you know what I'm saying? That's where I'm from. So it's just, you know, those were back in the day, those were offensive. You don't talk about my mama, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna get hurt. So it's like, you know, they just go overboard and then they get into this fight and it's not really you know, they show sportsmanship sometimes after the fight. But before all that and the build up and everything, you know, it's just really not what the essence of martial arts for. And primarily it's not for use for self-defense. You're in there trying to beat somebody up so that you could get money, fame, fortune. And that's your choice. I mean, you have the choice to do that, but it's just in comparison to the origin of martial arts, it has nothing to do with that. But it does show a reality of how real fighting would look if martial arts was put to the streets and done the right way.
Yeah, it's not exact, but it's kind of similar to like like that distinction between like wrestling and wrestling, like WWE wrestling and like actual wrestling, like what you see in like a college gym or like a high school gym or something, like when with all those like jumpsuits or whatever they're wearing, like those outfits. Yeah, so I that's kind of what it reminds me of, like there, like it's like it's like a completely kind of like a different book almost.
Yeah.
That's true.
So yeah, we are what are we, about like 20 minutes in or something like that. We're with Master Michael, and this Outlook to Reality episode 9. Yeah, anyways, we'll get back to like the martial arts stuff and stuff like that, but for now, anything going on with you guys in the quarantine? This is for some people, this might be like day 120 or something. But I've been outside, like, because I've been, I drive myself insane if I'm just staying inside. I've been going for my daily state approved walks. I've been playing some basketball, but my new sport I've been playing, I've been obsessed with disc golf. I've never played disc golf until like about 2 weeks ago, and I'm really starting to get into it. So what about you guys? Anything new with you guys throughout day 100, whatever it is?
Well, for me, I gotta say, I had the craziest week. To be honest with you, I was driving my car. I have an old car, 2003 Toyota Sequoia, and out of nowhere, my car starts not moving in the highway. It went from 60 to 0, and I honestly thought I was gonna die. I was so scared. I saw a big old truck behind me, saw cars moving. And I hear, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna die tonight. I'm gonna make my last prayer because this is it. And honestly, this was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. But luckily, I was able to make it. I had to pull up in the curb. I don't know how the car kept moving finally. And to be honest, my car was it's just going crazy. But the sad thing, this car's been with me for 10 years. And it finally shut down on me. So I had to buy a new car, not being, I'm not a rich man. So I had to take out a loan, get that money. But the sad thing, but you know what? Sometimes one of the things I didn't know is that I was being too materialistic and attached to my car. And I think God was trying to tell me, look, man, you got to move on from this. Because things don't last forever, honestly. And as a result, I got a better car. You know what I'm saying?
I hope you had good pictures with your older one.
Oh, right, I do. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, it's been a busy time for me. What I've been doing is just besides continuing to train and teach others, both naturally and spiritually. Because we've been dealing with different people in different countries. And like I said, I'm a minister, so I work with other people in different countries and as well as the U.S. and be an encouragement and strengthening and teaching and training how to do ministry the right way, not selfishly, in other words. But, I've been doing a lot of that and, been doing Uber Eats. So the business has been real good because, everybody's somehow are at home, during this time. So they were at home. And so, I was able to go out and the calls would come in consistently. I've done the passenger driving, but I think I actually like the food driving better. It's like, here's your food. All right, good night. Have a good, whatever. Just, no fussing, no complainings, no, not that everybody's like that, but you got those people. So
yeah, I drove for Lyft for a couple of years, and I don't know. I mean, one time I was looking at my phone to see like directions or like to see how long traffic was, and I got like this long review from like the Lyft people saying like you were looking at your phone, your passenger was bitching and stuff like that, and I was like, dude, fuck that guy. Because I was not. It's not like I was texting or anything. It's not like I was like making a phone call. I would never make phone calls or anything. Like I would always, like, if I had a call, I'd leave it. And I'd also never talk unless spoken to.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
I'm actually gonna start doing that. The Uber and Lyft. That's my next.
honestly, yeah, with a new car, dude, that's a perfect opportunity right there.
Yeah.
Put some
Yeah, and I
miles on
gotta
it.
right,
I
and I got a
imagine it's really
hybrid.
busy over there. I imagine
Oh yeah.
it would get busy. It's even now, even with the coronavirus situation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hands down.
Ain't nobody staying home, huh?
Yeah,
Right, right, and they're supposed to, but nobody's listening to the rule. When you tell somebody don't eat the fruit, they're gonna eat the fruit. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep. Yep.
It's so true. One thing I gotta realize, we have a very diverse group right here. To be honest, not only
you think because he's
culturally.
black, we got a black guy here? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, no, no. But look. I'm gonna be real. Look, my brother,
You can say the
Master
same about
Mike.
last week's episode. We had a Latina woman right last week.
Running for president. That's kidding. Oh man. No, but like honestly, like I was gonna say not just culturally, but spiritually too, because me is Muslim, Mike is Christian, and I'm Jewish. My mom, she converted at a very young age for me. So it's we have a very
Big
like
three.
yeah, big we have the
Yeah.
like technically the Avery, I'm trying to say Abrahamic. No,
Yeah, Abrahamic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Abrahamic religions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's pretty
Same
cool, man. We
God. Don't
got
worry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're in the same building, so it's pretty good. We I like that. That's why I'm saying we're really diverse today. Today we're going international.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
I'd agree with you there. Like we're diverse
Yeah.
in that sense for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
yeah,
diverse in like
yeah,
every sense here, but like yeah,
yeah,
we're diverse, especially
Yeah.
that like the religious sense.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's pretty cool stuff, man. I was gonna tell you guys when Hami was calling me today earlier. I said, "Man, Hami, I feel like I'm happy that Master Michael's gonna join us for this episode. I feel like he's like Master Splinter, and we're the Ninja Turtles. You know what I'm saying? You remember when they go, Master Splinter, Shredder's coming? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's a classic movie right there. TV show, my bad. TV show and
Yeah.
movie. But
Well, I have another question for Mike here, Master Mike, the master. Well, first of all, are you good at baiting? Like, would you call yourself a master baiter too? Like, are you good at baiting? Like, being like a good like a sidestepper, like making people miss.
So yeah, I mean, I adapt to people well. Um, the mode is survival for me, but when some of people's greatest weaknesses is their own pride, and even beyond their own fighting skill, it's the things that come out of their character that actually mess them up. So in essence, people sometimes just beat themselves up. So if I can set a person up to go in a direction or do something, but mainly I just let them, if they're gonna come at me, I just let them come at me, and I just sidestep or redirect, or if I have to go with it, I'll just I'll embrace the suffering and find a way to use it against them. So yeah, I would say I like to bait people, but I more or less just like to, if somebody's gonna attack me, it's just like, okay, do what you got to do. I'm gonna just adapt to you and just redirect.
Master Mike, the master baiter, love it. So you talked about earlier you worked with some police forces, but how about working with some of the protesters, and then having a training with them, and so we'd see a complete all-out martial arts fest, just a matchup between the protesters versus the police. We'd actually see a fight without weapons, of course.
Yeah. Um, I think in some cases, uh, that the protesters will win because they don't have the obligation of rules and laws that works against them. And that's kind of the same thing with martial arts. Traditional, you got these structures that prevent you from doing things in a good way. Law enforcement have, you know it's good that they have some type of structure to put checks and balances, because they can kind of go one level above the force that you're giving them, so that they can apprehend or detain you or whatever. But that unchecked can be very devastating, unfortunately, as we have seen. So, I think the protesters, though, by, combat of nature, they will win because they don't have the rules, they don't have the obligations, and they don't have a uniform. You don't know who they are or when they can strike. So they have a greater advantage in that.
Oh, well, I mean, I was mostly talking about you should train all those protesters in one place, and then they'll all do the moves. They'll try it on some cops, like at the same, 20 minutes later or whatever.
Yeah, if I train them, the first thing they're gonna learn is self-control. So control your signs. Don't use it to break it over the cop's head. Not all cops are bad. I know this from experience from working with them. Me doing it part-time, I still got to be close to the full-time guys, and someone will literally lay their lives down for you. They will not go at home just so you can. And they may not even like you, but they'll do it anyway because it's their sworn duty in their heart. It's not just obligation, it's their duty from the heart. But of course, we know we got the knuckleheads, in which, unfortunately, we see that in our world today too.
Right. It's true. It's true. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, one thing too, Michael, I was gonna ask you because I know you were saying earlier that you grew up in the streets and you saw a lot. So did you feel that you left that lifestyle and that martial arts was your way of escaping?
Actually, believe it or not, God was my way of escaping. So I was for obviously everyone who don't know, I used to be in the gangs. I got in the gangs at about 8 years old. As a part of the Gangster Disciples, which is very large and, obviously has a very strong reputation in Chicago, of course, but other states too. But the thing is just that, I when I got became, well, a Christian, um, or found faith with God and started developing a relationship with God, that I actually found that was more of a peaceful thing. I was trying to control my attitude because I had a very bad attitude. I was very violent. I was very destructive and self-destructive. So I didn't care if you made me mad or if you just looked at me wrong. It's just time to punch you in the face. It wasn't no talking about it. And I literally got into a lot of trouble. I didn't kill anybody, y'all who's listening. I didn't kill anybody. But, was the urge and desire there, and was the rage there to complete that task? Yes, it was there. And so that, getting in my faith in God, and my life was threatened when I said I'm going to walk away from the gangs, and they didn't, they don't usually go over too well when you say I'm going to be a good guy now. And now that I know all your dirt, the stuff that y'all doing and have done, but God actually intervened, and one of the leaders heart was really touched, and he said, hey, you know what, you don't have to go through violation to get out. I'm not saying no names, of course. You don't have to go through violation to get out, which is like another beat down, like how I did to get in there. And if anybody bothers you, you let me know. I'll deal with it. But as far as I'm concerned, you're out. And I took that. He said, don't ever come back though, and that's something very rare, because the exiting interviews in my day, I call them exiting interviews, was either you get beat down by a host of your brothers until, who knows, you could be unconscious, you could be in a coma, whatever. Gang is for life. It's not no just, oh, I'm changing my mind. Or you run down in the west side of Chicago, you run down the alley during my time again. They shoot at you and you can zigzag and try to get, to the end of the alley. If you got to the end of the alley, out of there, you were out of the gang. But if you dropped because they hit you, because you didn't zig or zag the right way at the right time, whatever, they finish you off. Because again, it's still death do you part.
So Master Mike here. We got about 5 minutes left, but we'll end it soon. So first of all, he's doing classes tomorrow. So usually Monday evenings through Zoom. Where can you find that? Like, do you promote that?
Well, I've been actually just doing it with some of my students, but I actually have a website that I use to just invest skills that I teach people. Which is Kingdom Construction Crew Ministries. Yes, it's a ministry, and no, you don't have to be a Christian or a Muslim or Jewish or anything else.
You don't need to be Abrahamic to come in this one.
Yeah,
you can be anyone.
Yeah, it's not about that. It's just a service, and that's what ministry is supposed to be, a service to the community. Instead of wanting to yell about being essential. No, you just actually provide a service that's essential to other people, and that's something that benefits them. So that's what we've been doing on using the ministry to do that.
Yeah, I just came across this website. I mean, I just searched your name and I just came across this website like right before we did this. It looks like days and times. Oh wow, you guys are in Downers Grove.
Yeah.
Is that still true?
Yeah, so that's gonna change. But yeah, that's where we've been. But right now, obviously, the building is on lockdown. So
Oh
we've
right,
been,
right.
but
I'm literally right next. I'm in Westmont. I'm literally right next door.
oh, okay. I'm
So
in Westmont.
yeah.
Well, Hami,
Yeah.
you got a nice security because Michael, he'll make sure everybody's okay. He's the Spider-Man. You're friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I've seen you around. I'm sure he's just
Yeah.
flying around the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now
Funny.
Saturdays at 11, we're in Oak Brook though. We're Oak Brook Community Church.
Oh, that's
So,
that's right next door too.
yeah.
Anyways, we're probably gonna sign it off. This is a great episode 9. We did this in the evening. We're gonna do this late at night. We just want to knock it out of the way. So thankfully we're here. Thank you for your time, Mike, so much. Hopefully
problem.
we'll have you back. We'll definitely have you back for sure. It's just a matter of when, and we'll keep on promoting martial arts classes Monday evenings usually. So thanks for listening, everyone. This is episode 9. Thanks for anyone who's reviewed our episodes or listened or whatever. We'll be back at it the next week. And yeah, that's all. I'm Hami Arain with David Montalvo. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.
See you guys.